Welcome back to episode 6 of the Family Only Run. At the end of the previous episode, Jane had just been born, but was going through a severe infant illness that had drained most of the colony's medicine. But in the end, she recovered and ended up as a healthy baby. Research has been progressing quite nicely, and they've even recently built a high-tech research bench. It won't be long until they can start using growth fats and using the gene editor to make super children. There's this giant blue monster that died just outside the colony. Let's see if the pigs are interested in it. Doink gave birth to more piglets, but unfortunately there's not enough room to grow the pig population anymore, so we'll have to keep it limited to just 3. A caravan has just arrived from the south. It's the tribe of Betra. Hopefully they'll be willing to buy some of the random resources the family has sitting around that they don't plan on using. There's a lot of miscellaneous leather that needs to be sold. One of these dusters can go. The family needs to buy some wood since it's pretty difficult to get much of it in a place like this. Alright, that should last them a little while at least. While they're waiting to get through this solar flare, let's take a look at what they've been talking about lately. Amelia gave a summary of naughty words to Wallace. Wow. Just wow. I guess he needs to know how to insult raiders and his siblings the proper way. Jensen and Amelia chat about laundry, so they're definitely keeping things spicy. Then Wallace and Amelia joked about getting drunk. Wallace is like, what, 4 years old? What kind of things are they teaching this kid? At least Amelia ended up teaching Wallace about faction relations, so he's learning something useful to help the colony in the end. Most recently, Amelia and Jake chatted about vomiting. Was this a pleasant chat about vomiting, or was she warning him not to vomit in the hallways anymore? It's hard to imagine that they were having a casual conversation about vomit in a positive way. And it looks like Jensen and Wallace were sharing thoughts about cannibalism with one another. The things they talk about in this colony are starting to get a bit disturbing. Well, anyway, growth vats have finally finished. They won't be able to construct one right away, but the tech is the first step, and it won't be long until they can start producing children in vats. In order to get the growth vats going, they're going to need more raw materials to get them built. There's still a ton of slag sitting on the map that can be hauled in. It just takes a while with only Jake and Amelia hauling when they have nothing else to do. The Empire has offered a new quest to host one of their royals. They're offering 2 honor, and all the colonists have to do is keep one guest happy for 7 days. Well, that should be really easy. It'll basically be free honor. Let's accept it and welcome our new guest. Basilios has an impressive backstory. He's a war master of a royal house and responsible for their wartime strategy. Unfortunately, he is a depressive misogynist, so he's actually a pretty awful guy. That easy honor just turned into a nightmare. I'm not sure they'll be able to keep this guy happy for 7 days. Great, he's already unhappy. Maybe some ambrosia will improve his mood. Oh, never mind, his ideology doesn't allow ambrosia. Well, it looks like a raid from the Sholo Accord has followed Basilos to the colony. Either that, or their arrival is a terrible coincidence. Since he's a depressive misogynist war master, there's probably quite a few people who wouldn't mind seeing him dead. Well, he might be miserable, but at the very least he can help the family defend the colony. That Zeus hammer's doing some work. It tore off the head of the first person he hit. Let's send him in first to take out the rest of the raiders. 2 hits and another raider's down, and the rest are running for their lives. He might be awful, but at least he's intimidating in battle. And immediately after, Basilos decides he hates it here and wants to leave. So much for that honor. Good riddance. They can get honor other ways. Let's work on getting a few more bedrooms built and ready to go. Jane is going to need a room soon, and since we may have future guests, it's best to plan ahead and have a few more rooms ready. It looks like a transport pod has crashed east of the base. The family can't recruit him, but they can at least heal him up a bit and get a little bit of medical XP. Let's send Jake out to practice treating those wounds. It won't get him very much, but there's no reason not to. Every little bit adds up over time. Two rooms are walled in already, and now they can install the floors and get some beds built in there. Alright, the floors are in, and now it's time for some furniture. That's looking pretty good. They should be ready long before Jane needs her own bedroom, or before any more guests arrive. There's also the option to move her crib into one of these rooms, but I think for now, it's okay to keep things how they are. Gene processor tech has just finished. Not only are they going to eventually use growth vats to grow children, the plan is to also use a bit of genetic engineering to create the best children that we possibly can. They have one good gene pack already, but they're going to need to start collecting more before they can use gene modding for anything decent. Fantastic. A horde of iguanas have invaded from the east. Let's move everyone inside, keep them behind the walls until these monsters move off. The last thing we need is a child being eaten by a giant iguana. An iguana might not seem like much, but you have to remember, these are not Earth iguanas. These are monstered RimWorld iguanas. An adult weighs 24 kilos. That's almost 53 pounds. These are basically dog-sized iguanas screaming outside the walls. With the worst timing possible, a group of visitors from the tribe of Betra have also arrived from the east. If they were chasing down the iguanas, then they found them. Or, much more likely, they have no idea what's about to happen to them. Yep, it's exactly what you expected. They've been torn to shreds by these monster lizards. That is a terrible mess that our colonists are going to have to clean up. Well, let's check in on what our children have been learning about. Amelia showed Wallace how to swing a fist. That's lovely. Then immediately after, she taught him how to defend against someone trying to punch him. That part's nicer, at least. Looks like there's been a lot of education regarding melee combat going on. I suppose I have to admit, that will be pretty useful on a dangerous planet like this one. Traders have arrived from the tribe of Betra. Hopefully they aren't too upset about that iguana situation. They've been good trading partners so far, and although they don't bring the most sophisticated goods, they're pretty reliable for basic resources. Let's try to get whatever herbal medicine we can off them. Well, they didn't bring a lot, but at least they have a couple medicine on them. It's important we get any medicine we possibly can. The colonists would be growing it themselves, but they still don't have anyone who has high enough plant skill to grow it. Until they do, they're going to be forced to buy any medicine they see and accept any quests that offer advanced medicine. Let's also grab a pile of psychite tea that can be used to help offset mood drops. 20 should be enough, since only our adults will be using it. It seems awfully inappropriate to allow the young children to be using that kind of stuff. Oh, that's wonderful. The boom rat that moved in earlier has been completely ignored, and no one has maintained its training. It's gone back to being a wild creature. I don't think they can safely tame the thing again, so let's take a different route. A couple of gunshots later, and that problem's been solved. Sorry, Jake. I guess your dreams of taming boom rats was short-lived. At least the fire didn't cause any damage. It's been a bit of a nuisance trying to keep up with providing chem fuel to the generator when they've been low on food for so long now. Ideally, they'd finish building the geothermal, but in the short term, I think adding a solar panel makes a lot of sense. The pig pen is really the only space currently available that's going to remain outside, so let's take advantage of that and build the panel along the southern wall. Then Amelia just needs to finish the power conduit, and power should become a bit more reliable again. It's more expensive, but the hidden conduit is always worth making over the regular conduit. Not only does it not cause any beauty penalty, but it also never causes the power discharge event to happen. During these lower colonist count runs, those events happening at bad times can be very destructive, so it's best to avoid them if at all possible. The mood had been stable throughout this run so far, but unfortunately it's taken a bit of a turn recently, and Amelia's had a mental break. It must be rough to go around smashing things up knowing all the while that you'll be the one who has to go around fixing everything you damage. Unfortunately, the timing of this tantrum is pretty bad. A manhunter pack has just struck, and it's boom rats, which is particularly nasty to try to fight. There's visitors outside, so I don't think this is going to end well for anyone. Well, the visitors dropped a ton of good loot. There's even medicine, but there's no way they can get out there to put the fire out in time. At least the mortar barrel won't burn up. To make matters even worse, the boom rats are going to walk around setting off traps. You have to love when rats come through and shatter your defenses for nothing. At least Amelia didn't go outside during the tantrum. The family's making this place ever so slightly safer, one cougar at a time. At this rate, it'll only take them a few decades to clear the region of cougars and their children can finally walk around safely. In the meantime, let's make sure we trade with a shaman merchant. They definitely have to grab the medicine. It would be nice to get the Insanity Lance, but at this point they just cannot afford it. Let's top it off with 15 more beer. That seems good for now. Thanks, Petra Tribe, you've been great trading partners. Let's just take a quick peek at what our colonists have been chatting about. The link between adulthood and sexual morality? Okay, I think that's more than enough conversation for today. And back to the cougars. After clearing out the cougars, I think it's about time to get Wallace and Jensen back outside and doing some useful work. For now, they can haul some chunks back so Jake can get to work cutting them into blocks. Oh, that is not good. The plague has just hit the pigs. There isn't enough herbal medicine to use on them, so they're just going to have to try to tough it out with only basic 10s and a lot of rest. Let's hope with the amount of sleep that they get, it's enough to get them through it. Good luck, Oink and Boink. Jumping ahead a bit here, Jake did all he could to tend the pigs, but unfortunately, Boink isn't doing so well. Her immunity is still 1% behind the disease. She's 11 years old, which is pretty old for a pig. I wonder if her immune system is lower because of her age. Things are not looking good. Well, just to interject a little bit of good news here, Amelia is pregnant with their 4th child, so at least there's that. She hung in there as long as she could, but unfortunately, Boink didn't make it. It was so close too. The family could eat Boink, but that feels a bit wrong at this point. Let's dig a grave so we can properly remember her and what she did for the colony. Well, she really didn't do much for the colony, but still, let's make sure we remember her. We'll bury her next to the geothermal. Rest in peace, Boink. In better news, the colony did recover a mortar barrel from one of the visitors who died to manhunting animals. An unfortunate end for the visitor, but at least the barrel didn't go to waste. Let's get a mortar constructed out by the solar panel. They will also have to start crafting explosive shells, but once that's done, the defense of the colony should significantly improve. And the Wennels tribe has come to say hello again. I wish I could say they're coming to pay their respects to the recently departed Boink, but they've proven that they're a group of savages that just want to destroy things, so we'll have to keep them far away. The first raider dropped, making the rest pretty angry. They charged ahead, but Jake and Amelia have done a pretty good job keeping their distance. These Neanderthals sure do take a lot of bullets to put down, but the more they're hit, the slower they get, and the easier the raid becomes. We're pretty far on the run now, but the raids are still small due to the low wealth and low pawn count. That's something I'm not going to spend much time complaining about. Keep the easy raids coming. Another trader has arrived. This time, it's a bulk goods trader from Yulia. They've brought a lot of nice stuff, but unfortunately I don't see any medicine. We really need more medicine at this point. At least they did bring a load of components, and those are always useful. Let's offload all this leather and purchase as many components as we can. 11 should do it. Just as the traders are leaving, the Empire sent a message about a crashing shuttle that needs rescue. 3 honor is definitely worth trying to get. Since it's only 1 star, I don't think our colonists will have much trouble. The shuttle has crashed to the east and is pretty far away from the safety of the walls. I hope these Imperial soldiers aren't completely inept like they usually are. Just don't charge into melee. And of course, immediately both are engaged in melee. At least this time it isn't their fault. That's okay, Jake and Amelia can do the work. After just a few volleys, the raiders are down and the rest are routed and running for their lives. These shuttle quests are hit or miss. Sometimes they work really well, and sometimes they're an absolute nightmare. This time it went very smoothly, and Jake got that extra honor. Slowly but surely, they're making their way towards that victory condition. Well, Amelia's still spending a lot of time teaching Wallace the ins and outs of melee combat. Maybe he'll turn out to be a brawler in the end. Another quest has just arrived from the Empire offering honor in exchange for allowing a novice and their underling to stay at the colony for 11 days. That should be pretty easy, right? We do have 2 extra rooms. At least it should be easier than the last one, as long as the guest isn't depressive. Let's go ahead and accept it. Oh, that's wonderful. Instead of depressive, this time the guest is in serious pain and has a permanent -10 to mood. You just love to see it. They have a painful bite scar on their right shoulder and an aching scratch scar on their left leg. Just to make things even worse, almost everyone in the colony has contracted muscle parasites. This is going to make things really fun. Jensen, Wallace, Jane, and Amelia are all infected. At least Jake isn't. He's the only one who can reasonably tend this stuff. We're going to have to be really careful how much medicine we commit to treating it. They each need to get to 300% total 10 quality to cure it. The herbal medicine would help speed things along, but even with just basic 10s, Jake should be able to knock these infections out pretty quickly. Basilicus refused to take anything for the pain, making the situation with her moved go from bad to worse. It would have been manageable if he would just have taken tea, but the ideology of the Empire doesn't allow for drug use. It's not exactly consistent with our family ideology, but what can you do? Just like the last guess, he's decided to just leave, and again, we failed to get the honor from the quest. How unfortunate. Amelia has progressed to the second trimester of her pregnancy. This time around, she has to deal with both the pregnancy and muzzle parasites, which must be just excruciating. I really feel bad for Amelia having to deal with the compounding issues. We really need to get that growth vac going so she doesn't have to deal with pregnancy anymore. Or at the very least, she won't have to deal with it as often. It looks like multi-analyzer tech has just finished. So now they're going to have to make room for this thing in the dining room. If they move the batteries over into the hospital, then they should have just enough room to build the multi-analyzer next to the research table. That should work out quite nicely. Our old friends at the Chosculeño pack have arrived from the north and are assaulting the colony immediately. They sent a few more raiders than they normally do. This is going to be rough because Amelia slowed significantly from her pregnancy and the muzzle parasites. I think the raid is a bit too big for Jake to handle himself, so she'll have to help where she can. The first few volleys of fire already picked off one of the raiders, so they're off to a good start. The rest fell back for cover, buying the colonists a little bit of time. Oof, Jake took a shot to the stomach and is bleeding pretty badly. At least he can still fight. The trap takes one. And they're able to pick off another one. They managed to isolate the last raider they needed to finish, and off they went. That was a bit too close for comfort, but they successfully defended their home once again. Okay, the batteries are moved, and now they can start building this multi-analyzer. Well, not quite. They don't have enough resources yet, but the blueprint can be set up at least. Happy birthday, Jane. The youngest child has just turned 3 years old and can finally get out of the crib and walk around for themselves. In addition to that, they'll be able to start feeding themselves with nutrient paste. They can also get started on a bit of cleaning and hauling around the base. Instead of all that, her first act as a 3-year-old is to go around insulting everyone. I guess Terrible 2s has turned into Terrible 3s. They can't arrest her, so the best thing they can do is just try to run around and avoid her. Let's hope that works. That's the end of episode 6. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for updates on all future videos. For those of you who made it all the way to the end, please consider checking out my Patreon to help support the creation of more videos like this one. You'll find the link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and see you for the next one.